update.
Yes, at this time I'll have Mike Burke and Leanne Evans and Wanda Paul come forward to speak to the capital plan.
All right, thank you, Dr. Fenoy. And yes, we've got our team here. The purpose of this workshop is to check in on our, we have a 10-year capital plan that the board approved a while back, and we went out 10 years because of the implementation of the sales tax. And once we got a voter's approval, that became a viable 10-year plan. So each year we check in and make some adjustments based on the latest information available. And you're going to see some adjustments mainly within the upcoming year, maybe 2 years out. Most of the plan is going to remain the same. We don't have a lot of new revenue coming in. Just to give a little context, there was one kind of significant change. You may recall last year at this time, we were a little upset because House Bill 7069 passed, and it required us to pass through local capital outlay dollars to all charter schools. That required Ms. Evans to go back to the drawing board and cut about $230 million out of the 10-year plan. This year, we've got a little better news. House Bill 7055 revamped that a little bit and provides that if the state can cover the cost of the charter school funding, the local school board is off the hook. So that allowed us to put back about $16 million that was slated to go otherwise to charter schools in FY19. So we got a little bit of relief, but we've also had some demands for additional chiller projects and other items. So we'll jump right into it. I think that kind of sets the stage on that slide. We always optimizing our resources is part of our strategic plan, and we stick to that. Last year, you may recall, we did some facility planning initiatives where we tried to look for opportunities to make better use of our schools, whether that was through expansion or building expected projects faster. And we did that again this year. We don't have quite the list we had last year, and some of these will look a little familiar, but these are just the revisions we're talking about. We've got a long list of new schools and other projects that are not on this page, but just a reminder, we were already, I think, talking last year about the K-8s down in Aston, Meisner, and Verde. The new one there is North Grade. Last year we added Hidden Oaks, where we go with an existing elementary school, and if they've got the space and they're interested, they grow by choice, and they added 6th grade at Hidden Oaks this year. For next year, we'd take that same path with North Grade, and the school is working on that now. We do have high school capacity issues still, and we're looking at these numbers have changed a little bit. I think the new one on the mix is Jupiter High School, and the size of those have gotten bigger. Initially, we had talked about additions of about 300 students, and when we worked with Ms. Paul and her team, we found that would not be enough to meet the expected growth. So you've got those 4 high school additions, and then Boca Area Elementary School 05C was always in our 10-year plan, but this year, thanks in part to a donation of land by the city and the growth in that area, we're trying to expedite that project and move it up. And then some other things have come to our attention. There were some projects that were actually requested, I think, years ago that we were never able to fund, but we had schools that had additional classrooms built onto their campus, but we never did anything to increase the core. So they may be using the same cafeteria and lunchroom, but serving many more students, and they're getting squeezed there. So we do have some projects we've added under the remodeling category to build out some of those core spaces. At this point, I think I'm going to let Ms. Evans get into the gritty details here.
Okay, good afternoon, everybody. So at this point, I've gone through and summarized the capital plan. Rather than bringing up the document with all the individual rows, we'll try to go through it this way. So this is a list of the construction projects, and again, these numbers look really large. They're over a 10-year window. Truthfully, most of the construction projects are in the first 5 years, but as we go through this presentation and you'll see some numbers, I'll probably remind you a couple of times it is a 10-year window we're looking at. So the things that are new are in italics, and we've tried to indicate if it's an addition to the plan or if it's expedited or expanded or other changes, the list that Mike went through just a minute ago. So we have the list of the construction projects, and then the next one is the debt service, and again, we're just going through the whole plan. So for the capital plan, we do have long-term debt, and we have some short-term debt that's planned for paying for some chillers that we need to do this year. There'll also be some short-term debt, not even including this number, but associated with the sales tax. As we try to expedite projects, We're hoping that the interest earnings will pay for the interest expense. There's not a line item for that in the budget yet. We always bring this to you just so you can see it. There's two lines. There's a red line, which is the value at 50% of $1.5 million, and the green line, which we just can't get rid of, which is 50% of the $2 million that we used to use for this. So the beige bars is the debt service for outstanding debt, and the blue is what we're planning to issue. So we're staying very close to that 50% of $1.5 million. So we're staying under that policy guideline that's in place. Other facility projects, this includes all the deferred maintenance and ongoing maintenance. So this is the sales tax money, the majority of it. Then there's other projects as well. So we've categorized these. Facility renewal, that is sales tax projects, absolutely. And then we have other things like chillers, life safety projects, basic facility maintenance, and then site acquisition and some leasing that we think we'll be doing over the 10-year window. Classroom technology and technology infrastructure, a lot of that is, again, sales tax. But we also have maintenance of our technology and buying computers for the classroom. You can't use sales tax for that, so it's funded with other sources. So this is a big portion of the budget and critical to the kids in the classrooms that need those computers. And security, in the past, we've lumped security with a couple of other things, and we're expediting all the money for the sales for the security. So if you recall in the sales tax, it's $30 million over 10 years. We're bringing all of that up into the first 2 years, and we can expedite it as quickly as Ms. Paul's team can get the projects done. So that short-term borrowing that we will at some point bring to the board for the sales tax will allow us to have some flexibility there. So we plan to expedite these projects. So there's security projects. There's also maintenance of the security maintenance, which is maintaining the cameras and the alarm systems. We'll continue to do that over the 10-year window. Transportation, we're going to be buying more buses. That was part of the sales tax referendum, as well as vehicles for support services, so maintenance, school police. That's still in the budget, and we've actually increased that some based on some of the things we think are coming based on school security. And then equipment, a lot of that is the copy machine leases throughout the entire district. It's also replacing desks and chairs in schools. Other items, property and flood insurance over a 10-year window. It's about $8.7 million a year. Reserves, now this number looks very big, and when I brought this into Mr. Burke and showed it to him, and I said, remember, this is a 10-year window, and most of that is in the last 5 years and probably won't happen. We'll get to the last 5 years, and there'll be other needs that will come in. So having the reserves in the last 5 years is a really good thing at this point, and every year we come to you and do this plan again, and we'll be making changes based on current needs. So if you look at the backup, you'll see there's really no change in the first 5 years. It's all in the last 5. And then charter schools, there's $10.4 million forecast to come from the state for this year. There's $104 million of local dollars set aside for 20 through 28. So if the state continues to fund that, that is money that would become available and we could reassign for other purposes in the future.
Also, that the $230 million has dropped. Part of House Bill 7055 changed the methodology on how much we pay per student in charter schools, so it lowered that potential obligation as well.
Right. Thank you. Some of the challenges we want to point out, there is uncertainty regarding the charter school capital outlay. We don't know if we pay that or if the state will pay it. So we're taking the conservative approach and putting it in our budget, assuming we're paying for it. We are dealing with rising construction costs. We're seeing that throughout the state, throughout the country. We're seeing rising construction costs that will impact some of these projects as we move forward, which leads right into the next comment, which is the cost per student station. We're obligated to build within those numbers. The state and the cost per student station for the last 2 years has actually gone down when we're seeing costs in the marketplace go up, which is counterintuitive, but we have to live with those numbers as we're moving forward. So that could change the scope of construction projects moving forward. All the projects that impact student capacity do have to have DOE approval, so that's still something we're working on and will continue to work on over the next 10 years. And then while the district's capital revenue is much improved, a lot of the money is sales tax, and we're very careful on how that money is spent. There's a list of projects, and we're making sure that's what the money's being spent on. We report that to ISOC on a quarterly basis, and we're monitoring that. So while the capital plan and the capital budget seems to be a lot bigger, it's all dedicated to very specific projects that were approved by the voters. The next steps, there's a few of them. We're currently doing some review of policies and procedures related to construction, trying to streamline some processes and look for opportunities where we can save some money and time. That's going to be an ongoing, and I'm sure those policies will be coming into the board in the next couple of months. We're also looking to hire an outside construction audit firm. This is something we have not done before, but it's been used in Orange and Hillsborough and other districts for years. It's not something our in-house audit would do. It's actually hiring a company that goes to the construction site and audits their books. And in Orange, they've been able to do that very successfully. They actually find enough savings that offsets the cost and brings money back to the school district. So we want to try to implement that. And it's a good time with all these projects coming up with the sales tax to make sure that we're not only auditing ourselves, we're auditing the contractors we're working with. And then we also we're going to work with all these recommendations in the plan to figure out how best to implement them. We'll be communicating that with staff, students, parents, the community. The capital plan will be presented to each of the appropriate oversight committees. And actually, we'll be meeting with the budget committee tomorrow to go over this same document. And then we'll continue. We always do this review process. I'm here with you every year telling you the capital plan is a plan, and it will change every year based on the needs of the district. So the one thing I'll guarantee is that what we have today is going to be different than what we bring to you on September 5th. I'd love for it to be done, but it changes. We still have to do a roll the year end. Final balance is what rolls forward, final revenues. The budget is based on the property tax revenues we get in this year. We'll get the final amount the first week of July. So this year's numbers won't even be done until the first week of July. So we will update everything and bring it all back to you in September.
And just one more closing comment. Tomorrow we'll have your budget advisory committee in this room for about 3 hours. And Ms. Evans will be going through the capital budget. Ms. Knust is going to spend a lot of time going through the whole development of the other pieces of the budget. So we're going to have a very thorough meeting tomorrow with your advisory committee.
Mrs. McQuinn.
Thank you. I've brought this up in the past, agreeing to wait until now, and it has to do with career and technical education school for Central and North County kids. Students, Dr. Fenoy, as Odyssey Middle has been repurposed to accommodate South Tech, and I agreed to let West Tech, get rolling. Would you please ask staff to now look at something like that? And we've really even talked about we could replicate practically what's going on at South Tech. It's not starting from zero, but looking at a school that our other students, and again, it would extend all the way to Central students. We used to do that with IB. Forest Hill Boulevard, we'd go to Suncoast, we'd go to Atlantic, and then finally we went out to Pahokee. So we need something for those kids. I've shared with you some very personal examples of kids who just simply, they passed the GED on the first round, but they don't want a full academic, regular, traditional day. So if you would please work with staff to look into that.
Yes, ma'am. I absolutely think that's something we can look into, and we'll put it on somebody take the note, and let's start having some discussion about it.
Mr. Barbieri and then Mrs. Brill.
Yeah, thank you. I just have one comment, concern. Before we hire an outside construction audit firm, I'd like to get input from the Inspector General's office. We already had a construction auditor there. I can just foresee them stepping on each other's toes because they're our guys auditing the inside the contractor, and we got somebody else on the outside. So I'd like to make sure that the Inspector General's office weighs in on this, because perhaps he'd rather have another construction auditor in his office working with Mr. Bliss, the current construction auditor, and that other guy would be the one that goes out, and the two of them could work together rather than having to have an outside firm. So can we just make sure we...
Yeah, Ms. Evans has involved the Inspector General's office. I know I don't think Mr. Chu was in the meeting, but I saw one of his staff members at our meeting when we went through that, but we'll continue to talk to him. Right. The two types of audits are not mutually exclusive. typically from what we've seen, like, again, this type of audit firm goes out and it's really holding the construction managers and the vendors accountable. And typically our Inspector General focuses more on, are we following board policy, our procedures, all that. So I think there's space for them to coexist, but we'll be sure Mr. Chu's involved.
Okay, thank you.
Mrs. Brill.
Thank you. I have a couple questions, but since Ms. Evans just mentioned property tax, I don't want to be the grim reaper, but I know that this year we expect to see some, good monies coming in. As somebody in the field, as a realtor, I can tell you that the press hasn't caught up with us yet, but property sales are down, prices are down, and, with mortgage rates going up, I think that you're going to see that the prices are going to start to drop, and in the next few years, you're going to be seeing, I think, some less money coming in on that front. I do have two questions, though. The Boca area elementary school, will you be seeking to do that as a P3, is my first question. And then my second question is, how soon can it be built?
Okay.
But we've brought Ms. Paul here for any difficult questions.
I think that we're looking at all potential ways to build fast. We're still working on what that arrangement would look like if we were to try to do a P3. But I'm an advocate for doing things, getting them built as fast as we can and of the quality we need because of the escalation of construction cost. So I'm working very closely with Mr. Berg and Ms. Evans to try to pursue all avenues.
As a follow-up, just thank you very much, because I do think that we have to think out of the box a little bit, think a little bit more creatively, so I appreciate your looking at all possible ways to do it.
Mrs. Andrews.
Thank you, and I've been working closely with you on West Tech, so I won't ask any questions. I think we're moving right along, and Ms. McQuinn, whenever you want to come and see what we're doing out there with our mechatronics and our remodeling, you feel comfortable to do that. But I was going to ask the question about our transportation facilities. I know this is the 10-year plan, but these people are still working in deplorable conditions. And so I don't know if there's anything going on for the modernization of the West, Central, South, and North. What's happening with that?
We are working with our program management firm, AECOM, to look at what the design for those facilities would look like. I'm being very conscious of not trying to put too many maintenance dollars in trying to give these facilities more life, because the reality is that we need to bring them down. So again, that's those are several projects that we're working on. We're looking at possible designs and then also trying to figure out how we can stay within the dollars that we've been granted. But I definitely agree with you. It's without a doubt needed to provide them better facilities.
I have several questions, but most of them are yes or no answers. The first one is, are you still continuing looking at opportunities for refinancing some of our debt service?
We have done, I think, all the refinancing that we will be able to do for the next few years. The federal government changed the rules and eliminated advance refunding, so that's not an option anymore. So we have to wait until the 10-year call period, and the next ones will come up in 2021. So I don't know that you're going to see me come in with refundings anytime soon. We're always looking, and we have a new team of underwriters, and they're tasked with finding opportunities to refinance things and be creative, and they are incentivized to do that. They get to lead the transaction if they bring us a good idea. So there's a lot of people out there looking to try to find opportunities. Nationwide, the municipal market has really slowed down significantly because of the federal law change.
And I just got to brag on Ms. Evans. She did work hard to beat the clock on that federal law change to get everything done that we need to get done.
And that's why I asked the question, is because we did so well in that. The second issue is related to the hardening of the schools legislation and how the impact is on the cost per student station. Is the state still holding us to the cost per student station if it begins to impact the cost of school districts to harden schools?
No, there was a provision in law this year that was changed that allows the security costs to go above and beyond their caps.
Okay. I assume that all of the new school construction will have the safety issues built into those designs?
I think we can all say yes, right?
Yes.
Okay. And the last one is not something that you can answer, but can you get us at some point in time an update on life safety projects and how we're doing on eliminating items from life safety?
I believe that item's coming to the board
Yes.
on the 20th.
One of the things that Ms. Evans has helped us with is to move money forward so that we could take care of the outstanding CSIR violations. Sorry about that. And so we've done quite a bit, but again, as we move forward, we're also accumulating more violations. So it's a constant balancing of trying to eliminate outstanding old ones and keeping up with the new ones. So again, that's very prominent for my team to try to continue to attack those issues.
Okay. Dr. Robinson?
So I emailed some questions in because of time, but the one that I want to ask is about under next steps in the policies and procedures. So I have this recollection about when we had the stakeholder input with the disparity study, there was some conversation about some change in our procedures that resulted from an audit, and it was negatively impacting the businesses, and it's kind of vague for me, but it just brings forward the idea to me of, as we look at these policies and procedures, can we make sure that we have stakeholder input so we don't do that again? And then also and you can answer later if you want, we had conversations before about having an MWBE advisory committee, and just where are we with that? Because I think that would be one of the stakeholder groups we need to make sure reviews and provides input on whatever tweaking we're doing.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much. We appreciate it. Our next topic is the policy workshops